In 1968, you could drop a white dinner plate into Lake Tahoe and watch it sink until it disappeared at 100 feet down. Today, that same plate vanishes at 60 feet. The lake has lost nearly half its clarity in 50 years, and you can see the damage in every measurement, every dive, every tourist photo that does not match the postcard they bought. This is Lake Tahoe. It sits high in the Sierra Nevada mountains, straddling California and Nevada. For thousands of years, it was one of the clearest lakes on Earth. The water was not just blue, it was deep cobalt-blue, so clear you could see rocks on the bottom in 100 feet of water. That clarity was Tahoe's identity. It was why millions of people came every year. It was the foundation of an economy built entirely on beauty. Now, the lake is turning ordinary. The blue is fading to green. Rocks that sat clean on the bottom for 10,000 years are now coated in brown slime. The clarity that made Tahoe famous is vanishing, and the system that created it has already broken. The clarity was never magic. It was simple physics. Pure snowmelt ran off the mountains into the lake. The snow carried almost no dirt and almost no nutrients. The lake itself is extremely deep, over 1,600 feet in some places, and extremely cold. Cold water slows down life. Low nutrients mean almost no algae can grow. No algae and no dirt particles mean the water stays clear. Light travels straight down through the water. Red light gets absorbed. Only blue light bounces back up. That is why Tahoe looked the way it did. Then people started building around the lake. Roads went in. Parking lots spread across the hills. Homes and casinos and hotels replaced wetlands and forests. Every new paved surface changed how water moved. Rain that used to soak into soil and get filtered by plants now ran straight off pavement. It picked up oil, dust, grit, and road salt. Construction sites sent clouds of fine dirt into streams. Lawns needed fertilizer, which is just packaged nitrogen and phosphorus. All of it washed downhill into the lake. The dirt particles are the first problem. Some of them are only 10 microns across, half the width of a single human hair. They are so small they never sink to the bottom. They just float in the water, scattering light in every direction. That scattering destroys clarity. Instead of light traveling cleanly down and blue reflecting back up, the light bounces off millions of invisible specks floating in the water. The water turns hazy. What you can see drops. The plate that used to disappear at 100 feet now vanishes at 60. You can see the loss in side-by-side measurements. Same lake, same white plate, same method, but the depth where it disappears has been cut almost in half. This is not a trick of memory. This is not seasonal variation. It is measurable collapse, tracked year after year with the same simple tool, a 10-inch white disc called a Secchi disc. Scientists lower it on a rope and write down the exact moment it disappears from view. That number has been dropping for decades. The second problem is nutrients. Nitrogen and phosphorus work like fertilizer in water the same way they do on a lawn. For thousands of years, Tahoe was starved of nutrients. Algae could not grow because there was nothing to feed on. Now the lake is being dosed with nutrients from every direction. Lawn runoff carries fertilizer. Road salt breaks down the soil and releases more dirt. Ash from wildfires drops phosphorus straight onto the water surface. Car exhaust from millions of visitors settles as nitrogen. Even sunscreen and human breath add tiny amounts to the load. Algae responds immediately. It grows. It spreads across rocks. It floats in the water. And it changes the color. Algae absorbs blue light and reflects green light. The more algae in the water, the more the lake shifts from cobalt to greenish jade. Tourists show up expecting the famous Tahoe blue and post confused photos online asking why the water looks green. The answer is simple. The water looks green because the system that kept it blue is gone. Divers see the change up close. They swim down to the lake bottom and find granite boulders covered in thick mats of brown-green slime. These are the same rocks that sat bare and white for 10,000 years. The cold, nutrient-poor water made it impossible for algae to grow on them. Now researchers have to physically scrape the algae off just to study what is underneath. The rocks are still there. The clarity is not. The lake is also getting warmer. Tahoe's temperature is rising 15 times faster than its old baseline. Warmer water makes algae grow faster. It also disrupts the lake's natural mixing cycle. Tahoe used to turn over every winter, pulling oxygen-rich surface water down to the depths. As the surface warms, that mixing weakens. Deep water loses oxygen, algae dies and sinks to the bottom. When it rots, it uses up even more oxygen. Fish that depend on cold, oxygen-rich water start to struggle. The entire food web begins to shift. That food web was already broken decades ago. In the 1960s, wildlife managers introduced tiny shrimp called mysis to feed the sport fish people wanted to catch. The shrimp did not behave as planned. Instead of becoming fish food, they ate daphnia, the microscopic water fleas that naturally grazed on algae and kept the water clear. The daphnia population collapsed. With the natural algae grazers gone, algae had one less thing controlling it. The shrimp are still in the lake. The daphnia are mostly gone. Clarity paid the price. Climate change is now speeding up every input. Snowpack in the Sierra Nevada is shrinking. More winter precipitation falls as rain instead of snow. Rain hits the ground harder and faster than slow snowmelt. It picks up more dirt and washes it into the lake in sudden, powerful pulses. Wildfires are growing larger and more frequent around the basin. Smoke drifts over the water and settles on the surface. Ash carries nitrogen and phosphorus. Each big fire delivers a concentrated burst of nutrients that acts exactly like dumping fertilizer into the lake. Development also destroyed the natural filters that used to protect the shoreline. Wetlands sat between the hills and the water, trapping dirt and soaking up nutrients before they could reach the lake. Most of those marshes are gone now, paved over or filled in for buildings and roads. The dirt now flows straight into the water, with nothing to stop it. The shallow water near the beaches is turning cloudy much faster than the deep center of the lake. Beaches that used to offer crystal clear views now sit in murk. The lake cannot flush itself quickly. Because it is so deep, it takes nearly 700 years for all the water in Tahoe to cycle through and leave the basin. That means every particle of dirt, every dose of nutrients, every flush of road grit that enters the lake today will stay in the system for centuries. The damage is not temporary. It builds up. The clarity loss is structural, not seasonal. You cannot wait it out. The economic stakes are real. Tourism is the backbone of the entire region. Visitors come for the views, the clarity, the impossible blue color. Studies estimate that a major drop in water clarity could cost the Tahoe Basin millions of dollars in lost tourism revenue every year. Hotels, restaurants, ski resorts, boat rental companies, all of them depend on the lake's reputation. If Tahoe stops looking like Tahoe, the brand collapses. Ordinary mountain lakes do not pull the same crowds or command the same prices. The ecological shift is just as clear. Tahoe is moving from a nutrient-poor lake to a nutrient-rich one. That transition shows up in algae growth rates, oxygen levels, and the types of species living in the water. A nutrient-poor lake supports one kind of ecosystem. A nutrient-rich lake supports a completely different one. The question is not whether Tahoe will survive as a body of water. The question is what kind of lake it will become. And the answer, increasingly, looks like ordinary. Satellite images confirm the color change from space. Over the past 20 years, sensors in orbit have detected a measurable shift in the lake's color toward green. Tahoe still looks blue from above, but the light spectrum is changing. The satellite data matches exactly what divers, scientists, and confused tourists see on the ground. The lake is not turning green overnight. It is turning green slowly, year by year, in a process that no one can deny. Scientists have set a goal of restoring clarity back to 1960s levels, a visibility target of about 97 feet. Current trends are moving in the exact opposite direction. The goal is not technically impossible, but it would require reversing nearly every pressure that development created over the last 50 years. That means controlling dirt runoff from roads and construction, reducing nutrient pollution from lawns and pavement, restoring wetlands that were destroyed, managing stormwater before it reaches the lake, limiting traffic and rethinking land use across the entire basin, and confronting climate impacts that no local policy can stop on its own. The tracking tools are straightforward. Annual Secchi depth measurements show whether clarity is improving or getting worse. Nutrient concentration tests reveal the pollution load in the water. Algae growth rates on rocks show whether the ecosystem is shifting. Temperature records track warming. Satellite color analysis confirms the visible change. Every single metric tells the same story. The lake is losing what made it special. The real tragedy is not that Tahoe is dying. It is that Tahoe is becoming normal. A normal mountain lake is still beautiful. People will still visit. Boats will still float. Fish will still live in it. But the extreme clarity, the impossible blue, the white granite rocks visible 100 feet down, the water so pure it looked like air, that version of Tahoe is fading. And once it is gone, it will not come back in any human lifetime. 700 years is how long it takes the lake to flush itself. 700 years is how long true recovery would take, even if every single source of pollution stopped today. Lake Tahoe's clarity is not fading because of age or nature. It is being destroyed by the very development that makes money from its beauty. The pavement that brings tourists to the shore also sends dirt into the water. The green lawns that frame vacation. Homes also feed algae blooms. The roads that make the basin accessible also deliver road salt and grit straight into the lake. The economy built on clarity is the same economy killing it. The loss is visible. The mechanism is known. The future is clear. If development continues and climate impacts keep accelerating, Tahoe will become just another pretty mountain lake. The extreme clarity that made it world famous will be gone. The cobalt-blue will fade to murky green. The rocks will stay buried under algae. The white disk will keep disappearing at shallower and shallower depths. And the postcards will stop matching reality. Thanks for watching this case file. If you want to see more investigations into collapsing water systems, let me know in the comments. Should we look at a river delta sinking into the sea, or a glacial lake disappearing as its glacier melts?